Hello and welcome to the Ambitious Introvert and the final in this special Best of the Back Catalogue series. I hope you have enjoyed time traveling backwards and hearing some of these great interviews from the past, whether it's your second time around or whether you're newer to the podcast and you're just discovering these amazing guests for the first time. Now, I could not have this kind of series without bringing in human design. If you've been here for a minute, you know that it's been a big part of my business journey and my personal growth, personal development, life in general over the last, 4 years. So I am well into my human design experiment. It is something that I use and consider daily when I am making decisions, looking at the best use of my energy, all of these things that's so important for running a business as an ambitious introvert. And so I was really thrilled to bring Erin onto the podcast back in 2022. She is someone that I have learned so much from about human design. Her Instagram is not only beautifully aesthetic, which very much appeals to me with my outer vision and direct light, but she also just shares really great perspectives and quotes and tips for all of the types in a really digestible way. So it was really an honor to be able to have this conversation with her. As we talk about in it, it was a beautiful kind of example of everyone using their design like perfectly, how this came about. I saw Erin's newsletter and I saw that she had been on some podcasts and I thought, maybe I should invite Erin on the podcast. And then I was like, right, now I'm just going to sit with that and I will see something or hear something for me to respond to and make that decision, because as a generator, that's how I make decisions. And literally the next day, one of my clients mentioned something about Erin and a podcast. And I was like, oh, yes, that's it. Like my sacral was like, yes, I do want to invite Erin to the podcast. So I emailed her. She replied and she said, thanks for the invite. I would love to be on the podcast. And I did not know at the time that she was a projector. So obviously I was using my authority and responding in that way, and then gave her the invitation, which felt great to her. And we sat down and had this chat, which was beautiful. So if you are into human design, I'm sure you're familiar with Erin. If you are new to the modality and new to her, then you are going to learn so much. She literally jam-packed this episode with all of the basics as much as she could. So please enjoy, and thank you for traveling back in time with me and taking some time to listen to some of these really great interviews. And I'm looking forward to bringing you some fresh new episodes starting again next week. Welcome to the Ambitious Introvert Podcast, created especially for introverts, empaths, and highly sensitive entrepreneurs to help you build, grow, and scale a successful, sustainable business. I'm your host, Emma-Louise Parks, business and mindset coach for ambitious introverts. After 17 years working as an air traffic controller, the ultimate fast-paced, high-stimulus, extrovert-friendly role, my mission now is to show introverts that they too can create big results and success because of who they are, not in spite of it. I focus on introvert-friendly business and marketing strategy to help you switch overwhelm for clarity, confidence, and clients. Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Ambitious Introvert Podcast with me, Emma-Louise. And you all know how much I love human design. You know that it is something I bring into the podcast a lot. It's something I live by. It's something I work with my clients on. And so I'm really thrilled to be able to dedicate a whole episode of the show to this fascinating topic, which I was just saying to today's guest, I just can't get enough of. So I'm really thrilled to be able to bring the wisdom of someone whose blueprint I read before bed every night. And she didn't know that till I just, I do, because I tell you what, first, please introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about your business. And then I'll finish the story.
Oh my God, I cannot wait to hear that story. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Erin. I live in New York. I work with a system called Human Design, which I know we'll talk about. And I have been working with Human Design since 2015. And I discovered it very serendipitously. I met a stranger at a party who looked at my Human Design and said I was meant to do this. And, you know, who knows where I'll go in my life. But I think that it's been an amazing journey over the past, I guess, 7 years of really kind of digging into the system and really exploring ways to share it with the world in the most kind of practical and empowering and accessible way. It's been a roller coaster and a wonderful one. And I really just feel so lucky because when I first started sharing Human Design, everyone was like, who in the world are you? And what is this? And this is totally weird and super out there. And I was like, wait, this is amazing. Like, when are they going to see that? And so like, I just feel really lucky that we're in a time right now where there are people like you that like just really like are really seeing the value of human design, you know. And I think now I've worked with over 20,000 people and it's just been amazing, you know, given where I started and how little interest there was. So it's been a beautiful journey, and human design is the most practical, grounded kind of permission giving system I've ever found. And it really has been such a pleasure to really share it with the world.
I always say like around the mid 2010s was when I was really getting like really deeply into personal development and looking at, you know, starting my business and stuff. And there were two things kind of kicking around in the space that were, you know, not super popular, but I was interested in and didn't learn more about. One was Bitcoin and one was human design. And I always say,
wow,
I was kind of a few years late to both parties, but I found Bitcoin in 2017. I found human design in 2019. I've never looked back.
No, I love it. So you've been in it for a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. When I was transitioning out of my full-time job, I'd been doing the business on the side for about a year. I'd been in my job for 17 years. So it's a big change, big transition out. And I worked with an energy coach, and she did all kinds of things, you know, like chakra balancing and feng shui, and really to kind of get the kind of toxic energy out of my system and ground myself into the business. And she said, oh, I do a human design reading. And I was like, oh, great. And the first thing she said is, you can never make a mistake. And I was hooked because I felt that very deeply in my soul. My whole life, I felt like, well, it's not a mistake. I just learned a lesson, or it wasn't meant to be. And because of my profile, she was like, it's not, it's an investigation. It's a learning. It's a lesson. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. But what she gave me was my chart, obviously, which we'll obviously talk a little bit about. And I got a great PDF explaining, you know, my gates, my channels, my centers, all of that. Really great, really functional. But I love your blueprint because it's so accessible. So I read it before bed because I feel like reading the blueprint is how it's going to seep into my brain to live in that way without having to actively think about it. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense.
If I can read like 2 or 3 pages before bed, I can go to sleep and absorb it all. And I'm happy.
I love that so much. It really makes my day. The blueprint has been such a labor of love over the years. And I think that and that's exactly it, is that I think that human design is an awareness system. And I think the more we become aware of our design, like you'll just start to notice when you're interacting or doing things in your business or in a relationship where you're just like, oh, I see why this is working. Oh, I see why this is not working. So I think that I love you just creating the opportunity to kind of let it seep in more and more, because I think as you do that, you'll just witness more of it showing up in your daily life, you know. And I think human design offers us so many tools to just be exactly who we are, but also to kind of build businesses and be in relationships and just partner and parent in ways that really work for us. And so it feels like giving yourself a little bit more permission every night. So I love that so much.
And we're all about permission giving here. As you know, my audience are introverts, empaths, and highly sensitive entrepreneurs. So people that, you know, oftentimes in life, we've maybe felt that we don't fit in, or society's not really designed for us. And especially the entrepreneurial lifestyle can be a little bit overwhelming. So I think any kind of system that gives us permission to be like, oh, so I'm unique, I'm bespoke, that's fine. I can do business my way. I don't have to follow this kind of very cookie cutter thing. And I think that is the beauty of it for me working with clients, is that if they have that understand, I'm not saying a massive deep understanding and digging into it I do as a 1-3, because of course I learn everything I can. But, you know, for them, I just think even having a slight awareness of, oh, so I shouldn't make decisions in this way because that's not how I'm designed. That can be life-changing.
Life-changing. Yeah. It's just it's these really simple parts of just how we show up every day, how we use our energy, how we make decisions, how we communicate, all the things.
So for anyone that is thinking, okay, this sounds weird, this sounds woo. I'm a human. How am I designed?
Yeah.
Are we not all the same? Like, what are they talking about? Can you give us a lowdown from a complete beginner's perspective?
Yes. So human design is a system based on your time, date, and place of birth that reveals what I call your energetic blueprint. And what I mean by that is how you're uniquely wired to use your energy, create opportunities, make decisions, process, work with others, leverage your strengths, all the things. Like, as we're saying it, honestly, just like when you hear human design, it's often not this like foreign language. It's just like, oh, that's why. Like, it will just give you language for what's happening in a really precise way. And there are so many different possible designs. There are 5 different types, but like a bajillion configurations. So I think more than anything else, it really kind of reminds you how unique you are, and how you're kind of uniquely wired to thrive. And I think it reminds us that we all just like are meant to do things very differently. Yeah, that's a high level explanation.
I love it. So for anyone that is now going to be like, okay, I need to know more. Tell me how I can make my business even more bespoke and make it work for me. If they were to like head over to your website, which obviously we'll link in the show notes, and download their chart, they're probably going to look at it and go, what the?
No.
To the uninitiated eye, it looks kind of weird. I was like, is that what I look like inside?
Totally weird. Yeah. So one, it's going to be very overwhelming and the chart is not intuitive. And we are exploring ways to make it more of that. But I think that you'll look at the chart and it can feel like a lot of information. But honestly, at the very beginning, what I would recommend that you look at is your type, your strategy, and your inner authority. There's a lot more beyond that, but understanding those 3 pieces by themselves can be pretty transformative.
And can you run through the basics of those for us? So if anyone listening, I think they should probably pause this, get their chart if they're interested, and then come back to it with the chart. And it's like they're getting a reading from you in real time.
I know, exactly. So you can look your chart up at humandesignblueprint.com. Again, the chart won't make sense, but look at the type. So high level, we've got manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. And every type has a strategy. So think of the type as the way that you're designed to best use your energy, and the strategy as the way that you're kind of meant to create the most aligned opportunities in your life. So I'm going to start with your type because I want to hear your reflections. Okay. So you're a generator, as you know. And so generators are really like here to be like doers. They have such beautiful energy to kind of build and create and make things happen as long as they are so on fire and satisfied by what they're doing. So I'd say a big lesson for you is around boundaries. Like, you have such tremendous energy, but like you're not available obviously for everyone and everything. So really saying yes to kind of what lights you up and excites you and feels right in your gut. I'd also say another big lesson for you is around prioritizing your own excitement. And so doing the things that bring you the most joy every day and seeing that not as a selfish choice, but actually as a thing that really allows you to have the most positive impact in the world and kind of magnetize the most to you. And I would say an ideal day for you might look like one where you wake up energized and excited. You kind of use up your energy throughout the day, probably investigating things that you love and studying and learning. And then you kind of drop into bed. That's just a little bit of you thing. And then you kind of drop into bed exhausted and fulfilled and wake up. And the last piece that I would just share more generally is that as a generator, you're not really meant to chase after things. Like, life is kind of meant to come to you. And your job is to keep your awareness open and kind of see what shows up in your world that excites you. And once the thing lights you up and shows up, then like that's the time to kind of go pursue that thing and make it happen.
That's been of the whole kind of journey and I'm going to say deconditioning of thinking that I've got to do and, chase all the time. I think that trust and waiting to respond has been one of the biggest things. I remind myself, just because I can doesn't mean I have to. I feel like that's because as a generator, I stayed in a job that I shouldn't have been in for too long because I could do it. It didn't light me up, but I could just kind of keep trudging along with it.
100%, and that's such a beautiful mantra. Like, just because I can doesn't mean I should. Like, it really is allowing your gut to guide you, your excitement to guide you, and really trusting that. And also like seeing your energy is really precious and vital and powerful, and so I would encourage all the generators to just really take inventory in your business and life and ask yourself, what am I the most energized and excited and lit up by? Can I do more of those things? What am I the most depleted, drained by? Can I let any of those things go? And so as it relates to business, like if there are aspects of your business that you love, do more of those things and know that it will like bring more and more your way. And if there are things that are continually draining and depleting, I would definitely recommend handing those things off when it's appropriate and when the resources are there. Okay. Next type, manifesting generators. So some people group these types together. So there's a lot of similarity here. So again, manifesting generators also have such tremendous capacity to kind of build, create, bring things to life when they're lit up and excited. Also have a big lesson around boundaries, knowing that just because they can do something doesn't mean they should. Also here to prioritize their own excitement, satisfaction, do what lights them up. A couple additional pieces is they're often quite multi-passionate. They might find that they like moving in between different passions. They might find that they reinvent themselves in their career. So they're not really here to have this like super linear career path. Like they're really here to just like honor where their energy wants to go and give themselves permission to pivot. I would also say they're often quite fast. They're really good at finding like the quickest way to get from A to Z, but not necessarily in handling every single step along the way. So through a business context, it's really good to kind of be surrounded by people that help you with the step-by-step process in a way that kind of really frees you up to be in your own flow. And they, similar to generators, are here to kind of wait to be lit up and wait for like a gut response before they go after something. Is that clear?
Yeah, super clear. I love it. I've had quite a few manifesting generator clients, and actually it's really odd because I run charts on like tons of people that I've been really close to over my life, and a lot of them were manifesting generators. But I definitely find that like you say, that ideas and, I've got an idea, like I'm going to make it happen, and the big picture and the vision, but the actual kind of what do I do next? That's where they tend to need the support.
Yeah. And I think that like manifesting generators, and I'm sorry, there are going to be dogs in the background. We have new puppies and they are still figuring their lives out, and we're figuring them out, and they're amazing. But I think that like manifesting generators and generators can be really good collaborators for that reason. You know what I mean? Because like generators can bring this really beautiful like investment in the process and kind of the step by step. And so like I really love working with teams that kind of have both those energies represented. But you can like start to see, and as an example for manifesting generator, like it could have been really easy for them to make themselves wrong for that. I'm too scattered. I'm doing too much. I should choose just one thing. I should slow down. Whereas I would be like, do all the things that you're lit up by at all the times that you feel right to, like bring on the right support, give yourself permission to pivot, like, and also don't expect others to move as fast or do as much as you. And so I think we often make ourselves so wrong for like just being exactly who we are. And so human design really reminds us of that.
It's so true, isn't it? Because in society, that's, it's like stick to one thing, stop changing your mind. What? Oh, you've only been doing this like X amount of time. Why are you rushing off to do something different?
Right, they're like, I'm bored. Yeah.
Because I'm meant to.
And I'd be like, yeah. And the thing is that like, they probably could be amazing at many things, but like when they're doing it from a place of being really lit up and excited by it, it will be an entirely different thing, And so really trusting that. So then we've got projectors. Do you have many projectors in your life?
Yes, I do. And about 50% of my one-on-one clients are projectors.
I love that you know their design. Okay. So, because it can really just help obviously, how to support them best. So projectors are really here to be leaders, guides, advisors, teachers, not here to do all the doing. So much of being a projector is knowing that your energy is going to ebb and flow. You're not designed to like do all day long. Projectors tend to be very innately sensitive to and wise about people, which can make them amazing therapists, coaches, guides, CEOs, leaders, like just where they're in a position of really asking the right question and guiding other people. Projectors tend to love systems like human design, systems that kind of even give us a cool framework to like better understand people and how they work. Projectors and generators can also be amazing collaborators. And so I think as a projector, I would just check in on like, are you giving yourself permission to honor the ebbs and flows of your energy? I know that for me as a business owner, it's been around really kind of building space into my days, not doing things back to back, and also bringing on support, not trying to do it all myself, and the strategy for us as projectors is to wait to be recognized and invited. And so instead of initiating or chasing after opportunities, it's really kind of letting the world know that we exist, making ourselves visible, and waiting to be invited in, and really kind of investing our energy in clients and partners and friends that deeply see us, value us, and recognize us. And so like for you, I would say with your projector clients, and I'm sure you do this, it's just like really like offer words of affirmation, let them know all the things that you see, kind of like also remind them that it's really powerful to take rest. It's really nice when I have people around me that are like, Erin, like it's okay to stop. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to stop, like I think that one of our biggest shadows as projectors is like just trying to keep up and not knowing when to stop. And so feeling the permission to kind of slow down and really allow rest in our days can be so transformative.
I love that you said, they're very into systems like human design, because I think most of my clients, because we, Myers-Briggs and all of that, are generally very open to it. But if I I say this to a friend, like if you speak to someone that kind of knows human design and you're like, what's your type? And they go, oh, I'm some kind of generator, I think. If it's a projector and you say, what's your type? They're like, oh, I'm a 6'3" self-projected projector. And I've got, and like, they kind of like reel off.
100%. And part of I know, so true. And like, you'll see so many people working in human design are projectors. This in no way means that that's the only people that are meant to work in human design. You know, everyone's going to bring their own gift. But I also think part of what really allows projectors to understand a system is to like, not exclusively understand themselves, but like understand everyone around them and like really kind of like understand the system. So it's like often goes like from I'm this to like, what is my partner? What is my kid? What is my colleague? Like, how can I understand more? You know, so there's such a desire for projectors, I think, to like use this system to better understand other people.
And it's beautiful because when I got your email, I'm on your letter from when I bought the blueprint and I saw that you'd done some podcast interviews. And I was like, oh, I got a sacred kind of, oh, I should invite her on the podcast. Like that was kind of my cycle. But because I've got emotional authority, I thought I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to sit it out, look for a sign, you know, wait to respond. And one of my clients sent me one of your podcast interviews with someone else the next day. And I was like, oh, there you go. That's my response. And then, of course, I invited you. I didn't know you're a projector. So then you got invited. It worked perfectly.
This is a beautiful example of everyone doing things according to their strategy. You know, I think that like, and what I mean by that is that like, okay, as a projector, like I can't be invited in unless people don't see me. And so I have built my business not by reaching out and initiating lots of opportunities, but just by sharing. I don't know how you first found me, but like sharing a lot on Instagram and on newsletters and on podcasts. And like, I just share as a way to kind of allow myself to be visible to the right people. So newsletters is one way. And like it showed up in your inbox and then you had a gut response, which is like what a generator or manifesting generator is here to do is like, wow, this feels like I'm feeling drawn towards this, you know? And I love that example of your client sending you that because it can show up in a few different ways as a way to kind of really confirm it. And just because it's showing up doesn't mean that I'm right for your podcast, but it gives you the chance to be like, okay, this is right. I'm going to reach out. And then you invited me and I said, yes.
So I did invite you. And I would love to ask, just because I have so many projector clients and projectors in my life, I know the thing is like, but what if no one invites me? Or do I have to wait to be invited to everything? Like, can I literally do nothing until I've been invited?
It's such a great question because I'd never want human design to feel like a disempowering system, you know? And I think that, no, you don't have to be invited to everything, you know? Like, I think once the invitation is there, whether it's like with a collaborator, whether it's with a partner, like you're in it, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's more just like how you enter into things. And like, yeah, you can like reach out to friends and you can do whatever you want. I think that like, I would think about, I guess my lesson with the invitation as a projector is knowing that like, I'm not for everyone and everyone is not for me. And an invitation for other people will let me know who's ready for my energy and when. If I try to like be friends with somebody who doesn't really see me, if I try to offer guidance to somebody that doesn't really want my like guidance, it just doesn't feel good for me or for them. And so I basically see the invitation as a tool to protect my energy and let me know who's ready. So I would say if you feel energetically pulled to somebody, seen by somebody, share. I'd also say like so much of being a projector is around mastering your craft and sharing yourself with the world. And so like, it's not about sitting around and waiting. It's more like, okay, like say I really love human design. I'm going to really dive into this. And now I'm going to consider ways that I can really make myself visible and share myself with the world as a way to kind of allow myself to be seen by the right people. Does that make sense?
Perfectly.
Yeah. Okay. Then we've got manifestors. Do you have any manifestors in your life?
I have one manifestor client.
Okay. Fabulous. So manifestors are really here to be the initiators and innovators, the ones that are really good at kind of getting things started and getting the ball rolling. Not always here to do all the doing themselves. You know, they like have a real for getting things off the ground. What really works for manifestors is to feel like they have freedom, they have autonomy, they have control. Like they're not really here to be told what to do or managed or guided in any way. Like they're really here to do things on their own terms and in their own way. Their energy can be very spurty, meaning that like they might have a burst where they can make a lot happen, whether it's over the course of a minutes, hours, days, or weeks. And then they need to kind of pull back and rest. And so I wouldn't kind of force like consistent doing. I'd also say that like manifestors really thrive with support. You know, they're really good at initiating. It's really nice to have people around them that can really support them in the sustaining and the building and the maintaining. And one thing I would just say is that a lot of manifestors I've worked with haven't really felt permission to be as powerful as they are. And so I think having a manifestor client, like reminding them of their power, of the impact that they're already having, really kind of like emboldening them to kind of be really courageous and carve a new path and do it their own way can be really a beautiful way to be supported. And their strategy is about initiating. So they're here to make the first move. Doesn't mean they have to keep making the first move over and over, but like often to start something. And it's also really healthy to kind of keep them in the loop. Keep the people around them in the loop. You know, their energy is very impactful. So if they go about initiating and don't let people know, people can be quite resistant. But if they just kind of keep people informed, then it can be a lot more flowy.
I love it. I feel like a manifestor energy is really powerful in a nice way. Like you say, it's very
100%.
Yeah. Just like they can make things happen so quickly.
They can, you know, and so like there's such a gift. And again, like I so many manifestors have really like shrunk from their power. And it's so much around just like being big, being powerful, knowing that they're not for everyone because none of us are. And like the bolder they are, the more they kind of make themselves available to impact and inspire the right people and kind of push away everyone that's not for them.
Beautiful.
Okay. Final type is a reflector. Do you have any reflector clients?
I do not have any reflector clients. I've only ever spoken to one reflector. She's a beautiful soul that's in my Facebook group and listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
And she reached out and she was just like, oh, everything that you say resonates so much with me. I've just discovered that I'm highly sensitive. And she's like, and I also discovered that I'm a reflector. I was like, wow. And she said, like, kind of, she's like early 40s, kind of my age, and everything made sense with discovering kind of those types of things. So
it's so nice, I think, for reflectors to discover human design because this is the rarest type. They're 1% of the population. So like, it's not surprising that you don't have one as a client, you know, and like, they're just more rare, you know, and I think that being a reflector is around being like a collective mirror. These people are so deeply sensitive to their physical space and they're always kind of taking in and magnifying the energy that they're around. And so you get a really good sense of how a team is doing or a company or a community based on how that reflector is showing up. And so I would say for them, and I mean, this is true for you too, but it's so important for reflectors in general, is to just be such ruthless curators of the people and places they're spending time with and in, because they're going to magnify so much of that energy within themselves. And their magic is in their fluidity. And what I mean by that is they might have periods where they feel like a generator or manifesting generator or projector or manifester. And their job is not to show up in just one way or be just one thing, but honor whatever feels like them that day. And then the last piece that I would say is in the context of business, we call reflectors evaluators because they just see and sense and feel things that so many people miss. And so it's really good for them to kind of be in environments where their perspective feels really invited in and treasured and valued.
And what's their strategy?
Okay. Well, honestly, most websites will say their strategy is wait a lunar cycle, but they say the same thing with their inner authority. And I just think that's a little bit unhelpful. So I would say that like their strategy, so in terms of making decisions, they're meant to give themselves a full month before they make a big commitment. You know, and often it's really good in that full month to really kind of talk things out in spaces that feel good. And basically, like, if you can't give yourself a full month, I think what's important is to make a decision based on your own timing and not someone else's. I see the reflector strategy as very similar to projectors. It's basically around being initiated by others and being invited by others. Like, you just have such a unique way of seeing things. So I would really invest your energy in the places that you feel the most seen. An additional piece is that I would say, when you're in the right physical spaces, you make yourself available for the right invitations. So a beautiful strategy for you is to plant yourself in cities and homes and offices that feel good and trust that will kind of get you in the right flow and pull out the most aligned expression of you.
I love it.
Great. Did you want to talk about authority?
Oh, yes.
Is everything clear so far?
Yeah, perfectly clear. I got this vision of people listening and I going, oh, I'm, a projector, and they're going, oh, everything makes sense.
I know. It really is. Again, it's like we said at the beginning, it's like reading and learning our human design is so rarely like, oh, this is so much weird foreign language. It's like, oh yeah. I'm given words for a thing that I always felt and now I like know is me. So I can step into it even more. So our inner authority in human design speaks to how we're designed to make decisions. And it's arguably, like, I would just say, one of the most important pieces of our design, especially as a business owner, because you're making decisions all the time. And to make decisions in the most aligned way for you is obviously going to really kind of get you into the right experiences. So if you are an emotional authority, also known as wait for clarity, it means that you are not designed to make decisions spontaneously or in the moment. it's often really good to like pay attention to your initial instinct and then give yourself like a day or 2 or 3 to kind of just like take space from a decision and kind of see how it feels over time. I always say for these people, the best decisions for you are the ones that you love over time, not just the ones you love in the moment. I would also say it's good to kind of not make decisions from like a super heightened emotional place. Like instead of like saying yes in a high, just like allowing yourself to kind of reach a more like settled, cool, and calm place within yourself before you commit. This can feel annoying. I know it did for me. I was like, I want to jump in. I want to be spontaneous. But I know in my experience, like when I jump into things and say yes super spontaneously, I'll often like feel a sense of like uncertainty and doubt throughout that entire experience. Whereas when I just give myself a moment before I say yes and really kind of allow myself to feel into it more completely, there's such a sense of clarity and calm that like travels with me throughout that experience. So like I just know it's always worth it. And it's specific for the big decisions, but I even find for the small decisions, like taking a couple hours, like it really allows me to see things in a new way. How does this feel to you?
This has probably been the hardest part of my design to implement, but has had the biggest impact because as a generator, I've got a really strong gut response to things. And obviously I'm pretty intuitive. So that all my life, I've always known things. So it's always been very easy to go like, yes, yes. But of course, like where it's shown up the most is like getting invited to something. You know, do you want to do this in like 3 months? And I go, yes, great. And then it gets to like a week before and I go, oh, like I shouldn't have, no. And I know if I'd have gone, you know, my stock response now, but you know, I get invited for podcast summits, different things like that is like, you know, thank you so much. Let me sit with this for a few days and I'll get back to you because I know that I just need to write it out.
Totally. And sometimes it could also be like, if somebody asked you to like a gathering next week, it could be like, yeah, like maybe I'll let you know the day of, you know, like I'll see where I'm at, you know? So, and I know it's not always feasible, but I think that like, I also feel like when I first discovered this, I kind of had a fear that like, if I took too long, opportunities would disappear. And I think what I really learned is that like the wrong ones will for sure. And the right ones kind of just become better. You know what I mean? They kind of just become like juicier and like more amazing. And so like, it's just like, it's it's a beautiful thing. And again, like I would just recommend that like you try to learn the designs of the people around you, because say you are a really fast decision maker and you're partnering with somebody that needs more time, like really learning how to respect their process and knowing it will benefit you both. Okay. The next one is sacral, also known as trust your gut. This is possible for generators or manifesting generators. This is about trusting your gut feeling in the moment. You're going to have a visceral feeling in your belly that either kind of pulls you towards or pushes you away from something. And you're designed to follow that. I would say for these people, if you're getting anything but a full-bodied gut yes, it's a no or not yet. And know that it never comes with a reason. The gut's going to sound like it feels right or doesn't. I don't know why. I'll find out why later. Do you have partners that have this kind of sacral trust? Clients that have this kind of sacral trust your gut authority?
Yeah, I do. I have one client in particular who is just kind of learning about her design, and she'll say something and you can tell it's very like a gut yes. And then she goes, but what it, and I'm like, no, you've gone to your head. Like your gut was saying yes, because that was your instant feeling about it. But then, you know, it's very easy when we think about something to talk ourselves out of it or decide it's not a good idea. But I'm like, you like go with that gut, because that initial response, when if she's like, oh, I felt really excited, and it was like a wave of excitement, I'm like, that's the response.
100%. I just like, and I love that you see that, because I think it's really useful to know what it is for your clients, because like I think that you'll start to notice if they're speaking from my gut, which again is like, it just feels right. I'm so excited. I have this rising of energy versus like, I think that I should do this because maybe it will lead to this thing. And you can tell it's like very much not their gut. And you might also like notice that they have a visceral feeling and then they just like start convincing themselves out of it. And I think a really powerful way to access the gut feeling, as you probably know, is through very specific questions. So instead of asking somebody like, what do you want to do about this? It's like, is this opportunity exciting or not? Like, do you want to do this now or not? You know, and kind of like see what their immediate visceral response is.
Yeah, it's, I think the gut one is just so interesting, because I think people talk about trust in their gut, but until you start to do it, because I think trust being the operative word there, like you say, like, do I trust this straight off feeling? Can I go with it? Because a society's like, you know, go and think about it, or make a list of pros and cons and rationalize it. So I think we're so out of the habit of trusting that instinct. So, and it's so powerful.
100%. It's so powerful. And it's just like, it can be really scary because you have a gut feeling and you're like, I don't know why this person's wrong. I don't know why this person's right. I don't know why this offer is wrong. Like, it's just like, it's this trust that like all that I know is what feels right or it doesn't. And I know that I'll find out why later. And it's a trust that your body knows more than you can ever conceive with your mind. And it's not to devalue the mind. It's that your mind is so powerful that you can probably convince yourself in or out of anything. And so it's just like a more reliable and trustworthy tool that kind of actually guide your energy. Okay. Then we've got splenic, also known as tune into your intuition. This is about trusting your intuition in the moment, which is like a very kind of quiet whisper, quiet knowing, just like intuitive feeling about something. These people are meant to be very spontaneous decision makers. And so like I would say, as soon as that quiet intuitive hit comes, go, no need to wait. And it's really quiet. And so I would say like any practice that helps you quiet down and hear it, the better, you know, whether that's meditation, being in nature, time away from other people. I think one thing I'd add for these people is that like these people are going to be particularly sensitive to other people's emotions and all kinds of things. So like it can be really good for them to just like, if they are around others, to then take some time alone to kind of confirm it's their intuition, because they might sometimes find when they're around others, they're like, yeah, let's do it. This is amazing. And then they might walk away and they're like, I think I was just amplifying their excitement, you know? So kind of giving themselves the space to reconnect to what's theirs. Then we've got ego, also known as tune into your willpower. This is about making decisions based on what your heart is pulling you towards. When it comes to business, it's like, what do you desire? What do you feel motivated to make happen? What is your heart in? And I would also say for these people, really kind of asking themselves, like, do I feel taken care of? Like they have so much to give, but they've got to feel like they're receiving so properly in return, whether that's financial, whether that's just like straight up appreciation. Then we've got self-projected, also known as talk it out. Do you know this?
I've got
you know
two self-projected projector clients. Out of 10 clients, I have two self-projected projectors.
Oh my God, how lucky they are to have you and know that that's how they process. Because like, I don't know how it shows up in sessions, but like it is with self-projected or talk it out, like they find clarity by talking things out, you know? And so it's really good to have people that just ask them questions, not like tell them what to do, but just like pull their truth out of them. And their decision making is very rooted in their identity. And so sometimes really useful questions to ask them are like, does this decision make you happy? Like, does it move you in the right direction? Like, does it really kind of like allow you to feel like creatively and authentically and fully express, you know? So they're lucky to have you. And again, it's just like for them, it's not about looking to others for advice, but like seeing like who are their trusted sounding boards and letting them know when they need them to just listen. When it's just like, hey, like, I need you to just listen. Like, I'm not looking for advice here. Then we've got what we call mental projectors. This would say none or be in the right space and talk it out, and you would be a projector. There are two more, and this is basically around being really sensitive to your space. So basically planting yourself in spaces that feel good and talking things out in those spaces and seeing kind of what truth emerges. And the final one, I actually already mentioned reflectors. Again, they're meant to give themselves a full 28 to 30 days. But again, that's not always feasible. Most importantly is that they choose on their own timing and not based on anyone else's sense of kind of pressure or stress.
Love it. I love it. So permission
It's
given.
so
If any of that, you know, if you're unfamiliar with it and you go, oh, that's what I'm meant to do. And that's why I don't work the same as, you know, my partner or my colleagues or my clients. That's why I've got a different way of making decisions.
Exactly. And it's just like, and I can't tell you how many like partnerships I've worked with where it's like one person say is splenic or sacral and they can make decisions super quickly in the moment and the other person's emotional and they need more time. And like, they've just been like so at odds because they've been trying so hard to be similar. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, like we find clarity through different processes. Like what would it look like to just like not try to be the same here, you know? And so it really creates so much, it brings so much compassion and empathy into relationships to just like, oh, we're different. Let's try that.
One of my self-projected clients, she'll send me voice notes. And the first one, she'll be like, okay, I'm just going to talk this out and see. And then there'll be, you know, like a string of voice notes. And I'll go to the bottom one. And usually she'll say, no, I'm good. It's fine. You don't need to listen to the rest. Because she knows that just by talking it out. Process. Yeah. And hearing herself. And then she's like, no, I'm good now. And yeah, like you say, in sessions, it means that I can just go, okay, so tell me what's going on, or what do you think of this idea? They can talk it out and then be like, okay, yeah, I got it. I'm good.
See, it's just so amazing to know that, and it's just like, and you just being like the right sounding board for that. Like, I just think it's really, I love so much that your client's human design, because I think like one of the ways that it can really support us is knowing how to support people, whether it's your client or your kid or your romantic partner, and it's just like, oh, what you need is different than what they need, and like this is a way to communicate with you that's probably going to be like more fruitful and generative than like it would be with this person. So I just love that. I think it's amazing that you're doing that.
I love it. So permission given, like you say, to be like, yeah, of course you can do it this way. I'll do it this way. And we're all good. We understand each other.
Totally. Yes, exactly. It's a wild system and hopefully a really useful one in business and beyond. I think, as you're saying, it just gives us such immense permission to be ourselves.
So you said that you very randomly found the system. Yeah. How did you feel when you heard about it and when someone basically said, like, you should be a part of this?
I know, it was so weird because it wasn't a thing where I was just like, everyone else is a part of it. This looks cool. Like I just knew nothing. No one around me knew anything. I think that I was in my friend's backyard in New York. It was a stranger and he kind of did a mini reading for me on the spot. And like, I think that hearing about my own design felt really relieving and really confronting. I felt like I'd, again, so much permission, and also like, wow, I have not given myself permission to live any of this. Like, what would it look like if I did? I think when he first was like, you're meant to do this, I think that I was a little bit taken aback. I was like, cool, but I don't know, and I think that like, as he started to kind of really unveil to me the different layers of human design, like everything about it felt so right. I think that I had discovered and dove into so many systems before. Like, I love this stuff, but I think that I had never discovered a thing that was as practical as human design. Like, I was just so blown away that it was like, so like in this very like human day-to-day language of like, make decisions like this, like create opportunities like this. And I think that I also came from a startup background. So I observed a lot of dysfunction in teams. And I think what I was almost immediately like shown in human design is how human design can be used to really support team dynamics. And so I was just like really blown away. But I remember my former business partner just being like, Erin, like, you're really like saying yes to this. And like, you really don't get it yet. But like, this was so my authority where I was like, it just feels right. I'm in, And so, and again, it was like a trudging the first few years because it was so early. But I never discovered a thing like it. I never discovered a system as precise and grounded and practical as human design. And I think that I pretty soon after discovering it felt like it would be so beneficial to the world. Like, whether or not they would ever be open or ready to it, I had no idea. But like, I knew there was so much gold in there that was like available at some point.
I feel like anyone that's listened that is newer to this, even if you learn these aspects about yourself that we've discussed today, like that in and of itself is amazing. But obviously it's a deep, complex system in a really good way. And there's so much more to learn. So anyone that wants to know more, definitely check out Erin's blueprint because, as I said, it's amazing. It's my bedtime reading. It's written in just such a beautiful permission-giving way. And it goes even deeper into the centers and the channels and the gates and all of that good stuff. So I just think it's really accessible. And I think everyone should have one, personally.
Me too.
I'm going to drop the link for that in the show notes. And all your other links so people can find you in various places in the online world. But before I let you go, I would love your book recommendation for any of my audience that are starting, growing, or scaling their online business.
Yes. And one thing, I'm happy to create a discount code for your audience for the blueprint if you like.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God, of course. Is there a word that you like to use?
Let's use introvert.
Okay. The code will be introvert. It was so funny. There was a woman who once called the blueprint the bedtime Bible. I was like, I'm so into it, and so I love that. Okay. The book that I would recommend, which is like not specific to business, but it's the one that I'm reading at the moment. And I'm just like hooked, is Will Smith's memoir. Have you read it?
No.
So he's a 6-2 generator and I am loving it. And I'm also loving it, like looking at it through the lens of human design. But I think that like part of his human design is very much being in a phase of his life where he just has like so much wisdom to offer because he's just like trial and errored his way throughout life in a way that has like really, he's just embodying a lot of it. So I think it's really, honestly, like I think just career wise, it's a really empowering book to read. I think that there's like, it's so funny and like very well written and really full of wisdom. And so I've been loving it and I really do recommend it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Going on my list for sure. And I'll also pop the link to that in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm thrilled that we could share human design with even more people.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ambitious Introvert Podcast with me, Emma-Louise Parks. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. As a thank you, one lucky reviewer each month will win a 60-minute one-on-one coaching session with me, where you'll get the clarity and confidence to attract your ideal clients. And if you know someone who could benefit from listening to the show, then please do share and help me reach as many fellow ambitious introverts as possible.